Hello coaches and welcome to this edition of Give and Go Live. My name's David Newberry and I'm joined as always by my colleague Ian Barker. Hello Ian.
Hello David.
Ian, we are on the second activity of 3 by Eric Descombes, and it's looking at the coaching possession in a small-sided game, and this is the second activity. As always, we look at the activity from the perspective of some diagrams, 3 sequences. We then progress on to watching the video from the convention in 2015, and then finally look at a global coach animation. In the first sequence, the setup is an area approximately 30 yards in length and 15 yards in width, and then we have 15 yards in the middle, creating 2 squares, a line that represents 2 zones. In the first zone, we have 3 attacking players, player 1, player 2, and player 3, and then we have a defender. And the objective is for the 3 attacking players to combine for 3 passes and then pass the ball to the other side of the area, to the second zone, where they have a teammate waiting in that area to receive the ball. Once that ball has been passed, 2 players that were in the original zone can now join in to make a 3 versus 1, with the defender also moving over. So the activity moves from one side to the other as the players manage to combine for at least 3 passes. If the defender wins the ball, they can do a couple of things, one of which could be to dribble to the nearest sideline to finish the activity. Ian.
Thank you, David. So when I look at this 3v1 to 3v1 on the other side, I'm really putting this activity at an under 10 to maybe U13, U14 level. However, the basic format of the activity, possession to go long, would be an activity I would use with older players too. I just change the space, I change the number dynamic. The first thing that needs to be clear is that the 3 players in possession form a triangle and maintain that triangle, so it remains a 3v1, and they don't get caught on each other. So what we see here is we've had the triangle, then additional movement has opened up the passing channel. So triangles, critical, that's the first thing we're talking about. We might then be talking about how we receive the ball, quality of the first touch, etc., etc. So technical things. But the idea of this, as opposed to the traditional keep away, which tends to keep players in their grid, heads down, not really getting their heads up, is because we have this transition element and requirement to go long, we are looking to play short connect to go long. So I like that addition of long. Certainly I like the idea that players now have to come and support. I like that a lot. I do think it's a kind of a big strain on the poor defender. So a couple of alternatives could be to have a defender on the outside here who comes in and you don't require the first one to recover. And if you can get the level higher, you might allow the defender to be marking the player waiting. So it's a 1v1 on deck. Now we pass it and the defender is already there and then the support comes. So there's ways of, even with the 3v1 concept, of increasing the challenge on the attacking or the possession team by helping the defenders out a little bit.
Ian, some great suggestions on how we can make this activity a little bit more challenging. In the video, Eric does make the activity slightly different. However, one could argue, and I'm sure you'll make the case of whether you think this is a progression or not, but an extra player has now been added to the outside and dressed as a goalkeeper, but it could be an outfield player. That player must remain on the outside of the area and can move both sides of the field to each of the zones, but must maintain their position on the outside. And the idea is, before you pass the ball from one side of the area to the other, you must combine with the peripheral player with at least 3 passes between you, and then you can transfer the ball to the other end. Ian.
So thanks, David. This is a first for anybody that's listened to previous Give and Goes, because I'm going to suggest that maybe this activity should have come before the previous one. And I'll explain why. First of all, we've now added a player, so it's now actually a 4v1 to play out. So I'm concerned about the addition of numbers. The other thing that concerns me is I have to play the middle pass, the intermediate pass, before we can go long. I would want to see that the players are always looking to play to the goal, to their target, and that the intermediate pass is merely an option, not a requirement. So I would take some objection with some of this. A couple of things I do like, though. I like the ability to maybe include a goalkeeper in this training session, as opposed to them being off by themselves, trying to warm themselves up. So it could be a good use of the goalkeeper. The other thing we might consider is simply going from the original activity of 3v1 to 1 and now putting the player out here. So we actually would eliminate a player. I might eliminate one of these kids and we play 2v1 inside the space with a view to finding the third player, with a view ultimately to getting to the fourth one. So I think there's some merit here, but I'm not completely sure about the nature of the progression.
And in our third sequence, we see the activity progress on, and we've got the player on the periphery moving from one side of the field to the other. To increase the intensity and the challenge level, Eric does add a condition of a one-touch pass combination following a two-touch sequence. So as we can see illustrated here with player number 4, on receipt of the ball, the player 4 has taken 2 touches, one to receive and then one to pass, and as a result, player number 5 has to play with a one-touch rhythm. Ian.
Yeah, I'm okay with the development here. So the idea being, as David said, receive, take a touch, and pass it on. If I'm going to allow this player to have the 2 touches, but this player is now conditioned to only have 1, the quality of the pass better be good, because it's very difficult sometimes to play a one-touch pass if the ball is played straight at you, underneath you, it's under hit. So the quality of the 1-2 touch rhythm here, 1-2 touch rhythm here, 1-touch rhythm here is dependent on the player that affords himself or herself the second touch to make sure they deliver quality. Another good opportunity here would be to play 1-touch or 2-touch, excuse me. So we want to play 2-touch. So this is 2-touch. This is good. But if the pressure is good and I'm forced to play 1-touch, now I have to play 1-touch for the remainder of the sequence. So we can actually flip it and go 2 touches to 1-touch or 1-touch to 2-touch. So there's some interesting opportunities there that challenge the players differently.
So let's now look and see Eric actually coaching that activity.
So now what we're going to do now is we're going to try to now introduce a little bit more the notion of support. So these players are going to have 3 passes, minimum, okay? Before you can play that ball to your target player here, a little higher player, okay? 2 of you are going to join in and support him, okay? And you can need possession. One of you stays, and we continue possession. Ready? And go. Let's have a look. Good. Stay in movement. Good. Try to find your target. And then 2 of you join. Good. Good. All right, we continue to stay in movement all the time, okay? There we go. When you don't have the ball, support him to get, there we go. Good. And find your target. Keep that ball on the ground. Keep it on the ground. Okay, and now we're going to stop. I'm going to put the limitation now on number of touches. So I've seen that they're very successful with it. So yellow, you only get 2 touches. There we go. 2 touches. There we go, good communication. Try to stay in bounds, good. Good, good early ball. And stop for a second. You see where you are now? I'd like to see you a little deeper. Instead of collapsing on top of your teammate here, play a little deeper. Make it harder for the player defending you, have more ground to cover, okay? You can move side to side. There we go. There you go, good. Keep moving, stay in movement. You can try one touch. Good. Good. See, one of the main problems with a 6v6 format or 8v8 format is the ability of the kids to keep possession. The game is very vertical, and rarely the players want to keep possession as much as possible. Okay, now we're going to stop. Now we're going to introduce the goalkeepers to the activity. Let's switch the guys in the middle as well. Get somebody else. All right, now you will be playing with the yellow team here. So they're going to be able to use you, okay, now, here. So I want you to move side to side. So when the possession is on these sides, 3 passes, they can use you either with your feet, you switch the side, or if you're under pressure, use your hands, nice and clean ball on the ground. Can we have a look? Ready? And then you're going to be there with the gray. Let's have a look. And go. So 3 passes, and then you try to find the goalkeeper. Good. Early ball. There we go. So can you use your hands or your feet? And then you come and support all the time. Good. Reduce the touches. There we go. Reduce the amount of touches. Good. Very good. You got to find the keeper before, okay? So now we're trying to go a little bit, instead of going so vertical, we're trying to find an option to go wide with the wings. Good. Be mobile and be vocal. You can use your feet. You can use your feet. Very good. And stay in here. Stay in here and support. Okay, now we're going to make it a little bit more complicated. Okay? We still have 2 touches on one side. If you take 2 touches, the next one has to be a 1 touch. So when you set him up, make sure that the ball you're going to play to him is an easy ball so he can play that ball 1 touch. So you got to make sure that you support him so he's going to have only 1 touch to play you. Okay? So if you go one touch is fine. If you take 2 touches, the next one has to be a 1 touch. Ready? Play. 1 touch. There you go. 1 touch. Play it quicker. Play it quicker. Play it quicker. Find your keeper. There we go. Good. One touch. Try 1 touch. Keep going, yellow. Keep going, keep going. Good. Try to win it back. Win it back. Just be careful. Okay. All right. Okay.
Ian, let's now go on to look at the global coach animation, and then we'll come back for some of your concluding comments before we end the presentation. So Ian, your final thoughts and concluding comments.
Yeah, what I would say is there shouldn't be anybody in the audience who hasn't seen a 3v1 keep away, certainly a 3v1 keep away with direction to the next space. The trick is, and what I think you see when you see Eric teach it is the nuance that we can add to that training session. So from my perspective, it's not having 1,001 great activities, it's having a handful of good activities and then manipulating the variables of size, of pressure, of touch, to bring out the topic. So my enthusiasm for the session and my point to the coaches listening on the Give and Go is find these activities, tweak them to fit your needs, and then be detailed in it and ask the players for performance outcomes before they get to the inevitable end of training session scrimmage.
Excellent, Ian. Well, thank you, coaches, for joining us on this edition of Give and Go Live. In our final session on activity 3, we will revisit the topic of possession in a small-sided game, and then we'll move on to a different topic. So thanks very much, everyone, for joining us.